We have a major update on the Knicks' trade interest in Walker Kessler. As we all know, this offseason, the Knicks attempted to trade for Walker Kessler, but unfortunately, they couldn't get a deal done. However, according to recent reports, Walker Kessler is not in the future plans for the Utah Jazz. And because of that, he could be a name to watch for the Knicks come the trade deadline. We're going to break down all of these latest reports and so much more today. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now. And make sure you have notifications turned on so you don't miss a second of the new content. And now, let's get started. The Knicks will pursue Walker Kessler at the trade deadline. We were all wondering what names the Knicks were potentially going to target at the deadline, because once the Knicks signed the Chua to that 1 year, $6 million deal, but in the process had him waive his no trade clause, we all knew that at the deadline, the Knicks were going to make a move. Now, initially, I thought that move was going to be for Jonas Valanciunas because it all lines up and it all makes sense. The Knicks would have the assets to trade for Jonas at the deadline. But if you think about it, they could also have the assets available to trade for Walker Kessler. The only question is, will Danny Ainge at that point in time want to accept whatever trade package the Knicks will want to offer to get Kessler on this roster? That's a question we're going to have to answer. But at least according to these recent reports, Walker Kessler is not part of the future plans for the Utah Jazz. Let's go ahead and break down these recent reports from NBA insider Eric Pincus. According to Eric Pincus of Bleacher Report, he states, despite the strong start to his career, Walker Kessler may not be in the team's future plans. According to Pincus, per multiple sources, Utah had discussed Kessler previously in a trade, including a stalled conversation with the New York Knicks. He doesn't seem to be part of the team's long-term plan. It's notable that Pincus mentions the Knicks and the Jazz spoke about Kessler, because Michael Scotto of Hoops Hype reported in July that the Knicks were a team that was interested in landing the 23-year-old center. Pincus continues here by stating, clearly, nothing progressed in those talks, but Kessler will now be a name to follow closely heading into the 2025 NBA trade deadline. Kessler was the 22nd pick in the 2022 NBA draft and has career averages of 8.7 points and 8 rebounds, with 2.4 blocks per contest while shooting 69% from the field in 138 games. If you guys watch this channel, you know my opinion already. I want the Knicks to go after Jonas Valanciunas at the trade deadline. But if Walker Kessler is available, and he's available at a trade package that we can afford him, that wouldn't be breaking the bank, I would want the Knicks to go after Kessler. Kessler is younger. He's defensive-minded. He can block shots. He can get rebounds. But here's the thing. He can still develop into a defensive monster under head coach Tom Thibodeau. And that's the point there. And another thing as well, too. Even though he might be Mitchell Robinson's backup if he came to this team, eventually I see Kessler starting on the Knicks. And with him starting on this Knicks team, with the talent that we have, the level of players we have on this roster, that when they're out there, they understand their role and they can maximize their abilities to the fullest. When you have those players out there with a guy like Walker Kessler, it's a match made in heaven. Kessler will find himself in situations out there where he'll be able to thrive because of the roster and the unit we have out there with him. We got to remember as well, we are able to run that pick and roll with players that are able to run with Jalen Brunson. We saw that last year with Isaiah Hartenstein, and I think Kessler would be perfect with Jalen in the pick and roll if he's throwing lobs, whatever the case may be. Kessler could also have a little bit of a mid-range touch as well. He has that in his bag too. So we also have to remember, Kessler can give you a lot of things on offense, a lot of things on defense, and he's young enough where he can still develop and grow. In my opinion, if I'm the Knicks, I'm going out there and getting Walker Kessler at the trade deadline if I can. But Danny Ainge is the biggest problem in all of these situations, because when you talk about Kessler and the Knicks wanting to go after him, you got to talk about the trade package. Even though the Jazz do not have Kessler in their future plans, it doesn't mean they don't understand how valuable of a piece he is. They're going to want something significant back for him. And if that's the case, the Knicks, unfortunately, do not have anything significant back that they can give Utah in that type of deal. They tried to do it in the offseason, and they couldn't get it done. And when it comes to the trade deadline, the same trade package that the Knicks tried to give Utah to try to get Kessler on this roster in the offseason, it's going to be likely that it's going to be the same trade package they're going to attempt to give them at the trade deadline. The only question is, will Utah accept that trade package at this point in time? If I know Danny Ainge, I'm going to assume the answer is going to be no once again. Just because Ainge will look like he wants to get everything and anything for Kessler, even though Kessler is not part of their future, he still understands how valuable Kessler is. Ainge is not going to discriminate here. He doesn't care if it's the Knicks or another team. He wants the most he can get back for Walker Kessler in any trade possible. And because of that, that's going to push Leon Rose and this Knicks front office away into a different trade scenario. And in my opinion, that trade scenario is going to be for Jonas Valanciunas. Not because Valanciunas is at the top of the Knicks list. It's only because if you look at value, what he could give to this Knicks team if he was added to the roster, especially as a backup, you would be hard-pressed to find a better deal in the NBA that the Knicks could fulfill right now without having to break the bank. Take a listen to this. Precious Achiuwa, whatever player the Knicks used to sign with that MLE, you include him in that trade, and then you include our protected Washington Wizards pick that we have from Washington in that trade package. It doesn't mean anything to us or really any team, but to Washington, it means everything. You give them that trade package, you're likely going to get Jonas Valanciunas on this roster, and you're getting him at a discount without having to give up any of your core players and honestly creating a better roster moving forward. That's why, in my opinion, the Knicks are going to make that move and not the Walker Kessler move. Again, not because they don't want to add Walker Kessler. They do. It's just because of Danny Ainge dealing with him and dealing with whatever price point he's going to ask for. The Knicks don't want to have to deal with that. They much rather go to Washington, who obviously is looking to trade Jonas at the trade deadline to a team that has a good package to give them. And the Knicks, in terms of contending teams, have the best package to offer Washington. And for the Knicks, even though it's the best package that Washington might get, it's nothing for New York because that's what they want to move anyways to get another impactful player on this team. It works out for both parties. And that's why I think that trade happens. Only time will tell. Leon Rose has a tendency to give us swerve balls when we least expect it. Sometimes we think he's going to make this move or get this player. And then last minute, he turns everything around and gets a player that nobody thought would join this team on this roster. Look at OG Anunoby. With the team in the Toronto Raptors that we were suing at the time. Look at Mikal Bridges, part of the Brooklyn Nets, a team that everybody thought would never do business with the Knicks ever again. And we did business. Every time we think that Leon Rose can't get a deal done, he turns around and he gets that deal done anyways. So I'm not going to put it past him on getting Kessler on this roster. If anybody's going to get that deal done, it's going to be Leon Rose. However, since I understand all the parties involved here, Leon Rose, Danny Ainge, and the price point that's likely going to be needed to get Kessler on any roster, I think it's a safe bet to assume that at the trade deadline, one of the names to watch for New York will be Jonas Valanciunas. And I think when it's all said and done, Valanciunas will be a New York Knick. But what about you guys? What do you think about these latest reports indicating that the Knicks at the trade deadline will likely look to go after and pursue Walker Kessler again? Let me know how you feel about that in the comments below, guys, because honestly, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below. And of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knick fans. Peace.